we have like a fake fireplace in our bedroom now. It's just like a giant space heater that looks like a fireplace.
Yeah.
So I'm very
They're pretty good too. I've actually had my eye on those for some rooms that don't have fire. If I could have a fire in every room.
Yeah, I think it's just like something we got at like Costco or something like that.
Yes, I know.
You can impress all your friends. You're like, I have a fireplace in every room. Look at it. I love this movie. I was telling Anne that, when you bring up this movie, you tell people what it is. I think instinctively people are like, it's a movie about a school shooting. And I was like, it's not really a movie about a school shooting. It's
not really at all in a funny way.
That's just like, that happened over here. But what the actors are presenting is a movie about forgiveness, really. And I think the movie is actually very easy to watch, if I can say so myself.
Spread the word.
Yeah, I will. I was curious what your personal response was to the actual text of the script, just because I was curious how you might approach playing this character on screen versus playing him on stage.
It's funny, Joey. I don't know that I would approach it differently, except that in the play version, I'd have to make sure that the people in the back row could hear.
Yes.
And I think were Fran directing it, he'd have to find lots of artificial and arbitrary ways to have us get up and leave the table so that people weren't sitting with their back to the audience the whole time. It's so fascinating when people are like, it would make a much better play. It's like, no, it really wouldn't.
Yeah.
In a funny way. Our producer, because Fran wrote it with me in mind, which was one of the most flattering things that's ever happened to me. And it was a play when he sent it to me. It was a play for about a minute. And he'd written it as a screenplay and then thought, well, it's one room, I could do a play. And then, people weren't that interested in it. And Corey, our producer, said, it's too intimate for a play. And I think that's absolutely right. You couldn't have that sort of panorama of the face like you do in the movie version. How would I approach it? I don't know. I think that when I read the script, I was flabbergasted truly by how complete it was, especially for somebody who'd never written anything before.
Yeah.
It was, there were some differences. I think it took place more in an urban setting, and the young man helping in the church was a Latino, and there was some different interplay between him and Judy. I don't think her name was Judy even at that point, but the structure was the same.
Yeah.
And when I am asked if I've done a lot of research, I read Peter Lanz's essay in the New Yorker about being the father of a school shooter. But I found everything I needed was in Fran's script. It was really all right there.
It's rich. That is a rich.
No kidding. Yeah. It was even just first read. It was like, oh, Fran, I'll go anywhere to do this. You tell me where I need to be.
Because I was even sort of thinking about because people always, when the movie came out, they were like, it does feel like a play. And I was like, okay, just because it's 4 people that never leave a room doesn't mean it feels like a play. I think that's like a bogus criticism.
I do too.
I also think, I was like, if you just think it looks like a play, look at the way the movie is edited insanely well. And the way he plays with perspective, when you guys separate from the table, when you come back, who's in the foreground, I was like, it's way more cinematic than you think it is.
And I'll tell you, Ryan the DP and Fran absolutely knew the second we got there what they were doing. There wasn't any sort of well, what should we do next? What if there wasn't any of that. It was really just okay, now we're going here. We got this and we got this 2 shot, and then we got to pull back and it's got 4 of you. And they did a couple of little experimental things with the camera in the middle of us. We took the table away and the camera was in the middle. And as soon as they saw it, they said, "That's terrible. We're not going to use it." So, but that was the only thing.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh, I'm just thinking of like how I want to read the play now. I wouldn't have to play. I want to read the script now. Just like have the words on the page. I need to get my hands on something like that.
It was published on Deadline, so it's probably
really?
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm curious about Richard. Seems like a very matter of fact man. I like how whenever, like, say Jason or Martha challenge, or their characters challenge him, he always has an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be, this was published then, this is what we did this time. I was curious what that sort of matter of factness feels like when you are obviously dealing with like almost borderline operatic emotional material.
Well, it was sort of a thrilling challenge as an actor, because of course the impulse is to do the melodramatic stuff, and actors love to cry, so let me cry. When can I cry? And Richard doesn't get to do that. And I think what's thrilling really is that all that stuff is going on inside of him, and he won't let it out. He's had 6 years of people writing about him and judging him and asking him these questions. So I kind of feel like he knows exactly what this encounter is going to be. Yeah. He doesn't want to be here. The first thing he says when he sits down is, "I've got to leave." Mm-hmm. And so it's just somebody talked him into this. Some lawyer or some therapist or somebody's like, "This would be a very good thing to do." So he's like, "All right, I'll do it." Mm-hmm. "What do you want to know?" "We did this, we did this, we did this. I know you think we didn't do this, but we did this." And I find Richard, honestly, the most tragic guy in the show, because he will not take this opportunity to get in touch with his grief. So he's really a cautionary tale. I think he leaves there pretty unchanged. Jason and I have an ongoing conversation. Jason thinks that the penny will drop for him at some point. I don't think it will. I think he's so determined to hang on to what little shred of what his life was like before this happened. So he's put it all over here, and he's going back to Baltimore and pretend that this didn't happen as the best he can. And of course, he will live a life of agony as a result.
Oof.
Yeah. Truly oof. Yeah, if there was ever an oof, that's an oof.
Well, it's also just like thinking of, like, when you say, actors love to cry and stuff. Someone told me, I think some professor when I was in like theater school, he always said, like crying and everything like that, like that's all great. And that's really, wonderful, especially when the scene calls for it. But it's also incredibly fascinating to watch someone hold it in and to like not cry, like more of like an active choice.
Because as you know, in real life, people will do anything rather than cry in front of someone. I mean, on the news or Dateline, they're like the tiniest little tear comes and they're like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. It's like, for what? But the thing about Mass is, this is a very good reason to cry.
Yeah.
All of, everything that's going on. So when Martha and Jason and Annie cry, it's well earned and wildly appropriate. Yeah. And also because they're so good, it seems like real crying. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was real crying. Lots of times, you get the sort of like thing in movies. It's like, okay, they're crying. I don't really believe it is. Somebody's grandmother once said, a lot of crying, not a lot of tears.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. So yeah. So I'm actually like, I'm glad I'm the one that doesn't cry in the show.
I imagine Richard maybe if he doesn't reach that huge emotional pinnacle publicly somewhere, I'm sure he'll break down maybe somewhere by himself.
There may have been a time or two in the last 6 years
And he
driving
won't
in
let
a car
anyone see
or
it.
something. He won't let anybody see it.
Yeah.
You know, he's a wasp, and
Mm.
that's not cool. It's not
No.
cool. It's also not cool to have people talk about you. This is his worst nightmare. Public opinion, and everybody's made up their minds about him, and truly living a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, separate from the nightmare of Hayden and what he did, but what his life has become. Very sad. Very sad.
I think one of my favorite parts of the movie is where Richard is very vocal about fighting for his own grief for his son. I think you have a line somewhere in there about like they mourned 10, but we mourned 11.
The world mourned 10,
Yeah.
we mourned 11, which
That
is
so
a
powerful.
gorgeous line. I mean, can you believe Fran wrote this thing like right out of the gate?
I was like, this is the stoner guy from Cabin in the Woods. The guy who this is him.
He has unsuspected depth. I know.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. You know the story. He researched it for years without the idea of writing a movie, just for himself, just with the question of how do we move forward in our lives. And then at some point, several years in, he thought, I think there might be a movie in here. And boy, was there ever. Gosh, I'm so proud to be a part of it. I even now, it's 2 years later. I kind of pinch myself. I can't believe I had the astonishing good luck after 47 years as an actor to do something as beautiful and timeless as this. Timeless, sadly timeless, but important.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it again last night, and Richard particularly made me think about all of those parents. Like the first thing I maybe because there's the connection in the script where Hayden dies in the library, and that's where the Columbine shooters committed suicide. I was like, I watched the movie, and like everyone else in my house went to bed, and I'm like sitting there like 2 o'clock in the morning, like deep diving on like, you know, this incident, that incident. And every single time I kept Googling like the parents, because their grief has something more, I don't want to say the grief is, you know, bigger than somebody else's, because you can't measure that, but there's something about, there's an extra layer on top of it where it's sort of grief and guilt and
shame, terrible shame.
Yeah, I find,
you know, and
fascinating.
You almost can't, like I think we touch on it in the movie, where it's like you feel guilty grieving. You feel like you're, you know, we mourned 11. I had to fight to find somebody to bury my child.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. God.
I once played Lee Harvey Oswald in a play, and I went to Dallas to do some research, and I met a journalist who was working for the Fort Worth Star, I think, and he had gone out to cover Lee Harvey Oswald's funeral, and it was a very similar thing. There weren't enough people to be pallbearers, so they got the journalists who were there that day to carry his coffin, and this guy was one of them. And I thought of that so much when we were making the movie. It's like, before the Oswalds had lost their husband and their son, and, you know, sneaking around like they were thieves. Terrible.
Yeah.
People's lives, huh, Joey?
I know. They're a little complicated.
Come to find out.
I have a feeling. There's a brief moment that stuck out to me when I watched it again, where they talk about Hayden's relationship with a math teacher.
Yeah.
and the moment is sort of like skirted around, and I was curious about what that is, because, or like what Richard.
Well, let me ask you what you think it is, and then I'll tell you what I think it is.
I wasn't sure if Hayden might be gay and there might be like a crush situation there, or he recognized gay people recognize, because there's that thing where you the old question is that gay people used to ask each other was, are you family? And it sort of was like that's what I initially thought of it. I thought of that actually both times, and I saw them separately away from each other. Or maybe I don't know. I imagined instinctively that the math teacher was a single man who maybe had given Hayden some guidance, but I thought to myself a little bit that Hayden might be gay.
I think you were meant to think that, honestly.
Okay, yeah.
And it's funny because Annie and I had this conversation when we were filming.
Okay.
And Richard, absolutely thought that relationship was inappropriate.
I totally get that. That's why that made me think that he was
inappropriate. And if Hayden was gay, I don't think he was out by any means, but I think maybe Richard's worry is that maybe he was, and then he's got this older, the teacher was probably 30. But it was, I thought, very inappropriate. I think Linda thinks it's fantastic that he has a mentor. And Annie thought it was, and I was like, no. I think that teacher's clearly gay. I don't think that they were acting on it. I don't think that happened. But I think that Hayden had found a refuge in this guy. And I think, Linda says he left the school. She tried to get in touch with him and he had gone. So I think there might have been some conversation. Maybe was Richard involved in getting that teacher fired? I don't know. But I think that the teacher leaving was not a good thing for Hayden.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when she brings it up, Richard goes, Linda, Linda, we're not going to talk about that guy. That is not relevant to anything we're talking about. That script is amazing.
I was gonna say, do you know how wonderful it is that in this time when I get so sick and tired of when people they need to know every single tiny little microscopic detail about everything, and they leave nothing into a gray area whatsoever. Isn't it nice that we can have a conversation of like, this is what it could be. It might be wrong.
I know that you could actually leave the movie theater or turn it off in your living room and spend an hour talking about it, and actually have people have opinions. It's like, no, Joey, I don't think that's what happened. Yeah, it's true. I think the way Fran sets up the movie with the church worker and the boy who could have been, not unlike Hayden and their kid, Evan, and then it's 40 minutes before she says he killed mine. I just think that is so brilliant because of course we know why we're there.
Yeah.
But most movies you'd be like in the first 10 minutes, they're coming because their son shot their other son. And it's like, okay. I sort
of went into, I had not seen a trailer the first time that I saw it.
Oh, fantastic.
And
so
I knew I knew kind of what it was. I knew they were dealing with a tragedy.
Right.
Because I saw it, because it debuted at Sundance last year.
Right.
And I think I saw it in this past summer, but it definitely wasn't out yet. And
right.
I sort of didn't know all the details about what it was. But yeah, when Martha says that one line, like, because
I'll tell you, I was there when we filmed it. And when I saw the trailer, because they give it away in the trailer, I gasped. I thought, holy cow, that is shocking. I was sorry that they gave it away because it's so shocking in the movie when it happens.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you didn't have it spoiled for you.
Yeah. Well, even, I mean, I've seen it a couple times now, and I think there's something about the way that it's written, the sort of I don't want to use like cliched, you know, phrase like the tightrope that you guys walk while doing it. It's sort of like, you know, it's exciting. Like this
Yeah.
it's an exciting script, and there's a volatility to it from both the direction and the acting that even though in the back of my brain I knew where it was going to go, I was like, I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
One of Jason's.
How in that prologue, which is, you know, maybe slightly comic, certainly the tone is a little different, but there's so much tension established already in that first 10 or 15 minutes of like something huge is going to go on here today. In such an effortless way. It's really wildly impressive. I think he's kind of a genius. I sort of feel like not since Orson Welles and Citizen Kane have we had such a debut as this.
Well, even like that sort of prologue before it does happen, it is very palpable. But after you watch it, that sort of ordinariness of it and the sort of borderline comic relief of it makes so much sense. The sort of like mundane,
that's right,
little things, and then like, you know, the sledgehammer of the emotional stuff that happened.
And then we go back after this incredible conversation. It's like, we got to find a box for the flowers.
I know, just like, just leave, please, just leave.
It's like this mundane, like, and you know, we got to stop and get gas on the way back home, and maybe we should get some lunch. You know, it's just like, and that's what life is. You know, what has happened in that room is so powerful, but life goes on.
Yeah.
And that's the story. Life goes on.
Yeah.
The boy Anthony's like, they want to use the boxes to take stuff over to St. Anthony. Like,
sort
okay.
of like, just leave, just leave.
Really?
Sort of.
Do you not understand what these people have just been through?
Yeah. It's like the most ordinary circumstances wrapped around the most singular and extraordinary circumstance around it.
Life-changing 2 hours.
My God. Okay. I think that might actually be, I mean, I sort of like how we could just talk about the movie and not like
go. Oh, you know, I could talk about it forever. And
it's I don't know.
Have you shown it to friends or family or anybody? I'm wondering what they.
Well, it's funny because I asked my husband last night, because like anytime we go home, I like bring like a screener pile with me.
Yeah.
This year we didn't get to watch anything, and I sort of wanted to know, because I think they're visiting soon, and I was like, do your parents like dramatic movies? And he was like, I'm not sure. And I was like, let's try Mass. Let's try you know,
the most dramatic movie ever made.
Like jumping off a cliff into the deep end. Let's do it.
Let's just see. Let's have a little test.
It'll be an experiment.
Right.
I could just like sit there and watch them while they watch it.
My mother, if my mother were alive, she wouldn't go anywhere near this movie. It's just too sad. Too sad. She would say, it's too sad. I can't watch it.
I know my dad, if he were alive, he would love the shit out of this movie. My dad was a newspaper editor for a million years. He was always somebody who taught me at a very young age, like, you know, you can say things, but sometimes it's not about what you say, it's what you mean. And I feel like that's something that I thought of him a lot when I watched the movie both times. And I feel that intention is very present in the script and in the performance.
Yes. Yeah. And as a newspaper man, I think he'd be all about it.
Yeah, I think so too.
For sure.
Okay, well, I think that's might be all I have for you. I didn't realize we were talking for like a half an hour already.
Well, thanks for the good work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay safe. Have a good rest of your day.
Stay safe. Take good care.
You too.
Bye-bye.